Hello, I'm Mr. Bob, and welcome to my Algebra 1 video series. This video covers Chapter 2, Section 3, titled Solving Multi-Step Equations. By the end of this video, you will review methods for solving multi-step equations by using the distributive property to combine like terms, and then the use of the distributive property to solve equations using those combined terms. To those ends, you will be reviewing the solutions of equations with grouping symbols, reviewing equations that contain fractions, and then finally ending with a review of equations that contain decimals. You will also take a look at the steps to a solution of a real-world problem. If you'd like me to cover any of these topics in greater detail, please leave your request in the comment section below. Please subscribe to this channel if you find the video to be helpful. Thank you. Okay, objective 1, using the distributive property to combine like terms. And it's going to say here that you can solve equations that require more than two steps. They are called multi-step equations. If there are like terms on one side, first use the distributive property to combine them, then use the properties of equality to solve the problems. Okay, example 1a, combining like terms. It looks like we have a couple examples here. There'll be a couple slides for this. So first, it says solve. Here's the equation. 2c plus c plus 12 equals 78. So as you know, if you've been with me for any length of time, you know that I always say rewrite the original equation. It's very important. It helps you to form a solid concept in your mind of what the equation is and what it's asking you to do. Okay, so we rewrite 2c plus c plus 12 equals 78. And then the first thing we're going to do is combine like terms. Well, it just so happens, what are the like terms on this equation? The 2c plus c right here. These right here, these are the like terms, and we're going to combine them. By combining them, we're going to get 3c plus 12 equals 78. Very easy step. Now, what do we have to do? We have to get the variable on it by itself on one side and the constants on the other. So in order to do that, we're going to use the properties of equality for subtraction here, and we're going to subtract 12 from both sides. That's plus 3c plus 12 minus 12 equals 78 minus 12. Okay. Then once we do that, we're going to combine, going to process simplify, I guess is what we'll call this. And when you simplify, you're going to get 3c equals 678 minus 12 is 66. Now, the next step is to take care of the multiplication and or division property of equality, and that would be to, in getting the coefficient of the c term to be equal to 1. And the way we do that is we're going to take, since it's 3c, we're going to divide both sides by 3. 3 on this side and 3 on the right side. And when we do that, we're going to end up with 1c is equal to 22. 66 divided by 3 is 22. Okay? Okay, example 1b, here's that second problem I said we were going to look at. And we're talking about combining like terms. They're getting our dabbling in and getting our toes wet, or whatever they like to say, right? So again, write the original equation before you start. And as you're writing it, you could look and say, okay, I know it's 4b plus 16 plus 2b equals 46. You now know the numbers and you've checked back to say, yep, it's the exact problem. You certainly don't want to finish a test and then find out that one or two or more of your problems that you solved the wrong problem because you didn't copy it correctly. Okay? So now, after we've done that, we're going to say, well, we're going to combine the like terms. And in our case, the like terms are the 4b and the 2b. We're going to combine them and we're going to get 6b plus 16 because we already had the 16. 6b plus 16 equals 46. Now the b terms are combined. So the next thing to do is, using the addition and or subtraction property of equality, we're going to get the 6b on the left side by itself. And in our case, we're going to use the subtraction property of equality because we're subtracting from 16. We're going to subtract 16. And then when we do that, we're going to do that 16 on both sides. So here it is on the left. Here it is on the right. Whatever you do on one side, you must do it on the other. And when you do that, you're going to now simplify, and you're going to get 6b is equal to 46 minus 16, which is 30. So now we have to get the 6 away from the 6b. Okay, we have to undo that multiplication. And the way to do that is you then use the division property. You can use either, and I'll tell you, you can use the division property of equality to divide both sides by 6, or in our case, you can use the multiplication property of equality by multiplying by 1/6, the inverse, right? The multiplicative inverse, we call that. So in this case, I multiplied by the multiplicative inverse, or the inverse of 6, which is 1/6. And here's the left side multiplied by 1/6 and the right side multiplied by 1/6. And when you do that, the sixes cancel out on the left, and you're left with b, and you 30 divided by 6, or 30 times 1/6 is 5. The answer is b equals 5. Okay, example 1a, it says here, check your understanding. So if you've been with me before, you know that I'm going to ask you to stop the slide and try and work these problems. And then when you come back, we'll work them together. And it wants you to check your answer. And there'll be another slide with 2 more problems on it, okay? So go ahead and stop the video now and work them. And then when you come back, I'll give you a few seconds here to stop and come back. And we'll work them together. And we'll go over the steps. Okay, I'm assuming you've done that. You've got your answers. Let's go solve them together. First thing we're going to do is what? I'm going to rewrite the equation. Minus 4x, 3x minus 4x plus 6 is equal to 2, or negative 2. See how you make the mistake? Let me even back that up, and since I jumped the gun on there, get rid of that negative right there. See, it's easy to write the problem incorrectly and get it wrong. Then you go back and you check, oh, this is definitely what I'm working with. So what does it say to do? It says combine the like terms first on one side, okay? Not across the equal sign, but on the same side. In that case, we have 3x and 4x are like terms. So 3x minus 4x is negative x plus 6 is equal to negative 2. Now we're going to go ahead and use the addition or subtraction property of equality. And in our case, it'll be subtraction because we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. So we're going to have negative x plus 6 minus 6 equals negative 2 minus 6. Then it says simplify, combine these terms, right? So we're going to say negative x is equal to negative 8. And why? Because these are gone, right? The 6's canceled out. So now we have to get the x away from its coefficient and set a coefficient of 1. And right now it's a negative 1, so we have to multiply both sides by negative 1, or the multiplicative inverse, and we're using the multiplication property of equality. So I'm going to say negative 1 times negative x is equal to negative 8 times negative 1. And that the negative signs all cancel, and we're going to have x is equal to 8, because the negatives all cancel, and you get a positive x and it equals a positive 8. Then it says check. So how do you check? Well, we're going to go ahead and write 3x minus 4x plus 6 is equal to negative 2. And now we're going to substitute our answer into all the x's. So we're going to say 3 times 8 minus 4 times 8 plus 6 is equal to negative 2. So this is 24 minus 32 plus 6. Is that equal to negative 2? And yes, it does. 24 minus 32 is what? It's 8, right? Negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. So it's negative 2 equals negative 2. Go to the next one. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to rewrite the equation. I7 equals m 4m minus 2m plus 1. We're going to combine like terms that are on the same side of the equal sign. So we have 7 is equal to 4 minus 2 is 2m plus 1. Now we have to get the m variable by itself, which means to remove the 1 from the right-hand side and move it to the left-hand side. We do that by using the subtraction property of equality. So we're going to end up with 7 minus 1 is equal to 2m plus 1 minus 1. Now you add these, we're going to get 6. 7 minus 1 is 6 equals 2m, and the plus and negative plus and minus 1 give you 0. So 6 is equal to 2m. And now we have to get the m by itself. It has to be just a singular 1m, not two m's, 1m. In order to do that, we're going to divide both sides by 2, or we could multiply by the multiplicative inverse of 1/2. The inverse of 2 is 1/2. The inverse of 1/2 is 2. You just flip it over. And I like to write, if you have 2, and how can you flip it? 2 is really equals to 2 over 1. And that's easy to flip because that is 1 over 2. So you can flip it easily. And okay. So now we're going to divide both sides by 2, or we're going to multiply by 1 over 2. So it doesn't matter what we want to do. Let's divide. So we're going to say divided by 2 equals 2m divided by 2, and the 2's cancel. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that 2 now cancels, so we get m equals 3. Now check it out. So they want us to 7 equals 4m minus 2m plus 1. So we substitute the m's with our answer right here, our 3, and see what we get. So we get 7 equals 4 times 3 minus 2 times 3 plus 1. And that is 7 equals 12. 4 times 3 is 12 minus 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1. And when we simplify this, we're going to get 7 is equal to 12 minus 6 is going to be 6 plus 1 will be 7. So I guess I should have done the whole thing. In fact, let me go back and erase that. I left myself not enough room. I'm just going to go ahead and simplify completely right here because I don't have enough room. 12 minus 6 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So 7 equals 7. Okay, now we'll go to the next slide. Okay, example 1b, check your understanding. So, right, same as before, you're going to pause just like I said. Solve each equation and then check your answer. So we're going to start off with a negative 2y plus 5 plus 5y equals 14, and a negative 3z plus 8 plus a negative 2z is equal to negative 12. Go ahead and try it. Stop the video and try it. Okay, I'm assuming you've done your best on that and you've got all have the answers. So let's give it a try. So to start off with C, we're going to rewrite the equation, negative 2y, okay, plus 5 plus 5y is equal to 14. Okay, so now we have to combine the like terms that are on the same side. So on the left side, we have a negative 2y and a plus 5y. So that's going to be 5 minus 2 is 3y plus 5 is equal to 14. Now we have to move the 5 to the other side because we have to get the variable by itself. So we're going to do that by writing 3y plus 5 minus 5, that's the subtraction property of equality, equals 14 minus 5. Again, that's the subtraction property of equality we're using here by adding a negative 5 to both sides. Then we're going to simplify. We're going to get 3y. These 5's cancel, equals 14 minus 5 is 9. So now what do we do? We have to get the y by itself, a 1y, can't have 3y. So we're going to multiply by the multiplicative inverse of 3, or divide by 3, whichever way you want to do it. Let's just say we'll divide by 3, okay? Using the division property of equality. Divide by 3, 9 divided by 3, and that gives us y equal to 3. Substituting in, we're going to get negative 2y plus 5 plus 5y equals 14. Now we're going to replace the y in our equation with the 3 that we solved to check. So it's negative 2 times 3 plus 5 plus 5 times 3 equals 14. So this is negative 6 plus 5 plus 15. 5 times 3 is 15 equals 14. And does it? Negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 15 is 14. And does 14 equal 14? Yes, it does. Last problem. Negative 3z plus 8 plus the quantity negative 2z equals negative 12. They just play give you a little extra to think about here by putting a plus a negative quantity. So let's do that. So now we're going to say negative 3, we got to get the z's together. Well, this really means nothing more than negative 2z. If this were a negative sign here, then it could have been a negative times a negative, right? So we're going to have 3z, negative 3z minus 2z. So that's going to be negative 5z is equal to, oh, no, plus 8 is equal to negative 12. So now I have to get the 8 to the other side to get the z by itself. So that we're going to have negative 5z plus 8 minus 8. And what was that property we're using here? Yeah, the subtraction property of equality equals negative 12 minus 8. The negatives, the 8's cancel, so we get negative 5z is equal to negative 20, because 12 and 8 is 20, and they're both negative, so we're subtracting, right? Negative 20. So what is left? We have negative 5z is equal to negative 20. So we have to get the negative 5 away from the z, so it can be a 1z. So we're going to in our case, let's use the division property of equality, and we're going to divide both sides by negative 5 equals negative 20 divided by negative 5. And when we do that, these 5's cancel, and we're left with z, and that equals negative 20 divided by negative 5 is 4. A negative divided by a negative is positive. So z, although that z looks like a 3, they're a little better, z equals 4. Now let's check it. Negative 3z, okay, plus 8 plus a negative 2z is equal to negative 12. Substitute. Negative 3 times 4, that's going to be 12, plus 8, plus a negative, it's going to be negative. Negative 2 times z is 4, so negative 2 times 4, it's going to be the 8, and we're still going to have negative 12. So this is going to be negative 12 plus 8 minus 8, right? Minus 8 plus 8 plus 8 minus 8 is equal to negative 12. And when we simplify this, we get negative 12 is equal to negative 12. Good job, everyone. Good job. Okay, example 2. This is your real world problem. Let's look at it here. A gardener is planting a rectangular garden. His garden will be next to an existing 12-foot fence. the gardener has a total of 44 feet of fencing to build the other 3 sides of his garden. How long will the garden be if the width is 12 feet? So we're going to relate this to the English here, the language portion of this, to equation if we can. And what they've shown us in this picture here is we have a 12 feet width. Right here, we have the 12 feet right here. Let me change colors. Okay, we got red. So we got this 12 feet, and then you have this length. And we're going to assume that maybe this is the fence that he's talking about. Over here is the fence, okay? So he's got a fence over here, and it's a 12-foot fence, and he's going to make it the whole as wide as the fence and as long as he can make it. That's the goal here. So you get the picture. So what do we do? So we're going to relate the language to an equation. So the length of a side, that's the x, right here, x, the length of a side plus 12 feet plus the length of a side again, the same length because it's a rectangle, equals the total fencing. And what is the total fencing? It's 44 feet. So let x equal the length of the side adjacent to the fence. Okay, so here's x is this one, and this one, the sides adjacent to the fence. Okay, that exists. And when we write that out, it's going to be x plus 12. That's our 12 on the side over here, plus 12, plus x, it's two x's, x and another x, equals 44 total feet. So how do we solve it? So we write the equation, x plus 12 plus x equals 44. Okay, and then we're going to combine the like terms on the left side. It's two x's. It's 2x plus x is two x's. We still have the plus 12, and it still equals 44 feet. Well, now we get the 12 to the other side because we want the x to be alone. And when we do that, we have 2x plus 12 minus 12 is equal to 44 minus 12. Because we had to subtract 12 from both sides using the what? The subtraction property of equality. Now we have 2x equals 32 because 44 minus 12 is 32. So we have to divide both sides by 2 or multiply both sides by the multiplicative inverse of 2, which is 1/2. In this case, I chose to use the 1/2. So we're going to multiply each side by 1/2. So 1/2 of 2x equals 1/2 of 32. Okay. And then when you look at that, you get the 2's are gone, right? So now it's x equals 32 divided by 2 is 16. So the garden will be 16 feet long and 12 feet wide. Okay, example 2, check your understanding. I'll read the problem to you, then you can stop the video and try it out. And remember, this is exactly the same problem we just had. So read it as if it were the same problem. A carpenter is building a rectangular fence for a playground. On one side of the playground is a wall of a building 70 feet wide. He plans to use 340 feet of fencing material. What is the length of the playground if the width is 70 feet? Okay, pause the video, give it a try, and then come on back and we'll do it again and we'll work it out together, okay? Okay, so we know that we're going to be working on 3 sides. So there's, like the other one had, I'll draw a little picture of it. So we had an x value and another value and another x value, and over here is a wall, right? And this is one of the x's because we don't know because he says, and we know this is what, 70 feet. They said that the width is 70 feet from here to here. And the x's here is going to be the length of the wall of the garden, or the playground rather, excuse me, the length of the playground, and it's being made with whatever fence is left, right? It's equal because this is a rectangle. So x, it's two x's. So what's the equation we're going to write? We're going to write that x plus 70 plus x is equal to 340. right? And now it's same as before. We're going to collect the like terms on one side that are on the same side. So x plus x is 2x plus 70 is equal to 340. Now we have to get the 2x by itself. So we're going to use the subtraction property of equality to move the 70. So we're going to have 2x plus 70 minus 70 is equal to 340 minus 70. And these cancel, the 70s cancel because plus 70 and minus 70 add up to 0. So now we get 2x is equal to 340 minus 70 is what? 270. Okay, 270 feet. We're not writing the feet here yet. So now to get rid of the 2 with the coefficient of 2 and make it a 1, we have to divide both sides by 2 or multiply by the multiplicative inverse. Let's do the multiply. So times 1/2 is the inverse of 2 times 2x is equal to 270 times 1/2. And when we do that, we're going to get x equals, what's 270 times a half or divided by 2, however you choose to look at it? It's 135. So our x is 135 over here and 135 over here, plus 70 there gives us the largest, pretty much the largest garden we can make with that one width of 70 feet. Okay, good job. Okay, objective 2, using the distributive property now to solve the equation. Okay, in the equation, minus 2 or negative 2 times the quantity b minus 4 is equal to 12. The parentheses indicate multiplication. So use the distributive property to multiply each term within the parentheses by negative 2. You see right here, it's negative 2 times everything that's in the parentheses. So it says, then use the properties of equality to solve the remaining steps of the equation. And what are the steps we should always keep in the back of our mind? These are pretty much common, what you should do. First thing you do, clear the equation of fractions and decimals. That's smart because it makes working with integers is a lot easier when you're, to think through the problem in your head. Okay, so then it says use the distributive property to remove parentheses on each side. Okay, then once you've removed the parentheses, then it says combine like terms on each side. On each, the terms that are like on each side. Then undo addition or subtraction. So get rid of the constants and or variable terms, separate them. Okay, using subtraction or property, the addition or subtraction property of equality. And then undo on your variable term, your coefficient, you need it to be a 1. So you have to undo that, anything that's not 1, so that it remains 1. And you're going to undo the multiplication or division using the multiplication or division property of equality. Okay, example 3, solving an equation with grouping symbols. So it says solve negative 2 times the quantity b minus 4 equals 12. And that b minus 4, the negative 2 times the quantity b minus 4 is certainly is the distributive property in play here. And we're going to multiply each term inside the parentheses by the negative 2 to remove the parentheses. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rewrite the equation. We always do. Negative 2 times the quantity b minus 4 equals 12. Then we're going to multiply each term inside the parentheses by the negative 2. And we'll end up with negative 2b right here plus 8. Because negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. And that equals 12. Now we have to get the negative 2b by itself. Our goal is to get the b by itself. But right now we're going to get the negative 2b by itself on the left side. And to do that, we're going to subtract 8 from both sides using the subtraction property of equality. So now we have a negative 8 has been added to both sides. Negative 2b plus 8 minus 8 equals 12 minus 8. So now if we simplify, we get negative 2b equals 4. And now we have a negative 2b. We got to get rid of the negative 2b and make it a 1, a positive 1. And to do that, we're going to divide both sides by negative 2, both sides. And of course, we could have multiplied by what we call the inverse, the multiplicative inverse, but this is, you know about that. We're going to say right here with the division property of equality. And that gives us negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. And 1b is right here, 1b positive is equal to 4 divided by negative 2, which is negative 2. Okay, we're on example 3. Check your understanding. And since you've been with me, I'm sure now, for a couple of these videos, at least you know that I'm going to ask you to stop the video. Try these on your own. When you come back, we'll work them together. So why don't you go ahead and do that? Okay, I assume you've done that. So let's take a look at it. So we're going to start off with problem A. 3 times the quantity k plus 8 equals 21. So what do we have to do? We have to get rid of the grouping symbols. Using the distributive property, we're going to multiply both terms inside the parentheses by the coefficient of that term. 3 times k plus 3 times 8 is 24 equals 21. Okay, so 3k plus 24, we're going to get rid of the 24 and put it on, um, we're going to move the 24 to the right side of the equation to get the k alone by itself on the left side, or the 3k to start off. So now we're going to say 3k plus 24 minus 24 is equal to what? Is equal to 21. So, oh, minus 24. Don't forget that. So now these two 24s are going to cancel, and we're going to end up with 3k equals 21 minus 24, which is going to be minus 3. 21 minus 24, or what's the rule? Take the larger and subtract the smaller, and you'll get 3, and then take the sign of the larger number, which is negative 3. Now we're going to divide both sides by 3 to get the k by itself. So we're going to divide by 3 on this side and 3 on this side. And when we do that, we're going to get k equals negative 1, because it's negative 3 divided by 3. How about the other one? 15 is equal to negative 3 times the quantity x minus 1 plus 9. They added a little extra, a tail to the end here. They added a little extra piece to it. So we're going to get rid of the parentheses first. So we're going to multiply both terms of the inside the parentheses by the negative 3. So 15 is equal to negative 3 times x, negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 1 plus 3. Plus 9. Oops, not equals. Excuse me. Oh, plus, plus 9. Okay, so now we're going to combine these like terms. Okay, combine like terms, and we're going to then move it around. So now we're going to have 15 is equal to negative 3x plus 3 plus 9 is 12. So now we have to get rid of the 12 and move it to the other side so that we can have the 3 by itself, the 3x. So we're going to say 15, and to get rid of a positive 12, we're going to use a negative 12 is equal to negative 3x plus 12 minus 12. There's where the subtraction property of equality. The plus and the minus cancel on this side, and on the other side, they're going to add together, right? So we're going to have 15 minus 12 is 3 is equal to negative 3x. And we have to get the x by itself, positive 1 coefficient. To do that, we're going to multiply by 1 over negative 3. Let's do that way. Multiply by 1 over negative 3, which is negative 1/3, times 3 is equal to negative 3x times negative 1 over 3. And when we do that, these 3's all start canceling. The negative sign cancels over here, so we're going to get x on this side, and now we have the 3 and the 3 negative on this side, so the 3's cancel. We're left with negative 1. So x equals negative 1. Okay, example 4a, solving an equation that contains fractions. So it says, here's what we're going to solve. 2x divided by 3 plus x divided by 2 equals 7. So we're using this method here by adding the fractions. This is the method we're going to use at this time. So but to add the fractions, we're going to say 2x over 3 divided by 3 plus x divided by 2 equals 7. There's always start with the original equation. And then what's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to rewrite these terms so that the coefficients are fractions. So as you see here, we have 2/3 times x plus 1/2 times x equals 7. So now they're fractional terms, coefficients. And now we can go ahead and add the coefficients. The x's can just float along here. So in order to do that, we're gonna get a common denominator, so to speak, of x. And we're going to use that common denominator. And when we do that, we're going to get 6. Excuse me, the common denominator of 6. I think I said x of 6. So we're going to now have 4 divided by 6 times x plus 3 divided by 6 times x equals 7. Now we can add those because we've got a common denominator of 6. So we end up with 4 plus 3x is equal to 7. 6x equals 7. So here's where we combine those like terms. These like terms are now combined right there because we made the fractions, right? We have the fractions that we could add. And we down here, we can have 7x divided by 6 is equal to 7. Okay. And we're going to multiply. Now to get rid of this fraction, we're going to multiply by its inverse. And the inverse of 7/6 is 6/7. We're going to multiply both sides by 6/7, right? Both sides. So when we do that, the 7's cancel and the 6's cancel on the left-hand side. We're left with an x. And on the right hand, the 7's cancel and we end up with a 6. So the answer is x equals 6. Okay, example 4b, solving an equation that contains fractions. Again, the fraction or the equation we're using is 2x divided by 3 plus x divided by 2 equals 7. We're using method 2, which is multiplying to clear the fractions. So we start off by writing our equation like we always do to start and make sure that we're working on the correct equation. And we're going to say, in order to do this, we can see that there's a common denominator, 6, in here right away. We can see that's going to be 6. So what we can do is we can multiply both sides of this equation by 6, which is the common multiple of 2 and 3. Okay, so we have 6 times the quantity. 2x divided by 3 plus the quantity x divided by 2 is equal to 7 times 6. Both sides have to be multiplied by the 6. Okay, in doing that, we get 12x over 3. 6 times 2 is 12. And 6 times x is 6x over 2. And that equals 7 times 6. And when we simplify this and do our multiplication, we're going to get 12 divided by 3 is 4x, plus 6 divided by 2 is 3x, and 7 times 6 is 42. Combine like terms, we get 7x equals 42. And now that we have that, we can say we have to divide both sides by 7 using the what? Division property of equality. So we're going to say 7x divided by 7. That'll give us an x right here, is equal to 42 divided by 7, which is 6. And you see we got the same answer as last time. Okay, example 4, check your understanding. Solve each equation. So let's give them a try. Go ahead and stop the video, and I'll wait for you. When you come back, we'll do them together. Okay, now that you've stopped and you've come back, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. First thing we're going to do is what? We're going to rewrite the equations. M divided by 4 plus m divided by 2 is equal to 5/8. And there's two methods we could use. Let's use the multiplication method here. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to multiply by the common denominator here, whichever would be the common denominator. 4 times 2 is 8. And it works out nicely because there's an 8 over here. So let's try it. So now we're going to multiply. We're going to say 8 times, this is using distributive property, m divided by 4 plus m divided by 2 equals 5/8 times 8. So now we have 8m divided by 4 plus 8m divided by 2 is equal to 40 divided by 8. Okay, so now, which is equal to 5, by the way, right? So now we have 8m. So this 8 over 4 gives us 2m plus 8 divided by 2 is 4m. And that equals, well, I'll just say the 5 at this point. So we can now combine these like terms. So we're going to get 6m is equal to 5. Okay. Why did I write 50? Sorry. My hand slipped. 5. Okay. 6m equals 5. And now we have to get the m by itself. So we have to divide both sides by 6 or multiply each side by 1/6. It makes it faster if I just divide by 6. So I'm going to say divide by, oops, that's the eraser. That don't help. Divide by 6 over here and divide by 6 over here. So these 6's cancel and we get m equals 5/6. And that is the answer. And now let's go to the next one, B. So let's see, maybe we can try the subtraction method or the fraction addition method, we'll call it. So I'm going to rewrite it. 2/3 x equals 5/8 x equals, not equals, minus 5/8 x equals 26. So the common denominator is going to be 24. So I'm going to go start off right away. I'm going to go to it, 24. And I'm going to say I have to multiply the 2 by what to get 20, to make for the 24? 2 times 8. 16x minus, and the 5 has to be multiplied by the 3, the cross multiplication, right? I'm doing cross multiplication. 5 times 3 is 15x, and that is equal to 26. 16x minus 15x is x divided by 24 is equal to 26. So what is x? Well, we have to use the multiplication property of equality and multiply each side by 24. So 24x over 24 is equal to 26 times 24. These 24's cancel, so x is 26 times 24, and it happens to be 624. And that little dot doesn't belong there. It looks like I wrote a little dot in there. I didn't. It's a little pen. 624. Okay, thank you. Okay, example 5, solving an equation that contains decimals. Well, this is pretty simple when you do it the way they show here. It's not as confusing. So it says solve the equation 0.5a plus 8.75 equals 13.25. Okay, so in doing so, here's the original equation, and we always start with the original equation, make sure that everything adds up and looks correct. And yes, so what we're going to do is we have to get rid of the fractions, and they say to do that you're going to multiply by something. Well, what do we multiply by? Well, we have hundredths, okay, and tenths. So the hundredths is what we should be multiplying by to get rid of the hundredths, get rid of all the decimal points. So if we multiply by 100, we're going to get the 100 times 0.5a plus 8.75, that's the quantity times the quantity, equals 13.25 times 100. And when we do that, we're going to get 100 times 0.5 or 0.5 is 50a. 18.75 times 100 is 875. We moved the decimal point 2 times because of the times of 100. How about 13.25 times 100 is 1325. You move the decimal point 2 places. Okay, so now we have these in nice even integers, so to speak. So now we have 50 plus 875. We're going to have to get rid of the 875, get it to the other side of the equation. So minus 875 is equal to 1325 minus 875, using the subtraction property of equality. So now we have 50a is equal to 450. 1325 minus 875 is 450. We're combining terms and coming up now. So now we have a 50a equals 450. We have to divide both sides by 50 to get the a by itself. Positive 1. So 50 divided by 50 is positive 1. 450 divided by 50 is 9. So a equals 9. Okay, example 5a, check your understanding. There's going to be 2 slides, 4 problems. We'll do these 2 first and then the second 2. So let's give it a try. First thing we'll do is write the problem. 0.025x plus 22.90.95 is equal to 23.65. Okay, what does it say we do? It says take the greatest number of decimal places you have, which is thousandths, 1, 2, 3 places, and multiply each term by that 1,000. So 1,000 times 0.025x plus 2295 equals 2365 times 1,000. Multiply, doing distributive property on the left, we're going to get 25x plus 22,950. And that's going to be equal to 23,650. Okay, so now we're going to get the x by itself by using the subtraction property of equality. 25x plus 22,950 minus 22,950 is equal to 23,650 minus 22,950. And when we do that, these cancel, and we end up with 25x is equal to 700. 23,650 minus 22,950 is 650 from up and 150 down, 700. So we're going to divide both sides by 25 now because we have to get the x by itself. In order to do that, we're going to divide by 25 on this side and divide by 25 on that side. So now we have the x cancels because we use the distributive property or the division property of equality. 7 and then x equals how many? 25 goes into 700 how many times? 4 per 100, 700, 28. Okay, there's that answer. Now let's do it again. In this case, all the terms are tenths. I'm going to rewrite the equation. 1.2x minus 3.6 plus 0.3x equals 2.4. Multiply everything by 10. We're going to get 10 times 1.2x minus 3.6 plus 3x equals, I'm sorry, it's 0.3 equals 2.4 times 10. So on this side we get 12x minus 36 plus 3x equals 0.4 times 10 is 24. So now we're going to combine like terms before we move on. So we have two x terms on the left at 12 and 3. So that's 12x plus 3x is 15x. 3 plus 12 is 15. And we have minus 36 equals 24. So now we have to get the 15x by itself. So we're going to add using the addition property of equality. 15x minus 36 plus 36 is equal to 24 plus 36. These two 36s cancel and leave us with 15x on this side, and that equals 24 plus 36 is how much? 60. 20 plus 30 is 50, and 4 plus 6 is 10, 60. In order to get this x by itself with a coefficient of 1, we need to divide each side by 15. So we're going to use the division property of equality and divide 15x by 15 and 60 by 15. And when we do that, these will cancel. X will be equal to 4.